Welcome to Unscripted with Russo. I'm your host, Ashley Russo, president and executive producer of The Peak TV. For our podcast, we decided to explore the people behind the narratives. I'll introduce decision makers and influencers who are winners in their field and find out the intimate story behind their rise to success. Welcome to Unscripted with Ashley Russo. Right now I've got Paula Young here. She has an awesome podcast herself called It's a Young Thing, which I love the name, Paula, so thank you for being here.
I married the right guy.
I know, right?
If you should have married a guy with the last name of Younger, though, then it could have been Younger.
I love it. I don't know, maybe talk to Tom, you can change it up. That's great. Well, Paula, you have a really diverse background. You've done so many things, and I know that you're very inspiring to a lot of women out there, and I want people to get to know a little bit more about you. So let's just start with talking about your background. Where'd you grow up, and a little bit about your upbringing?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited. I always like to have other people on my podcast, so I'm going to have you on sometime, so we'll trade that up. I actually, I'm born and raised in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and that's the home of Little League Baseball.
So were you a baseball fan growing up? Is it sort of a prerequisite?
It is. And
okay.
when you're 12, you can work out on the dike at the game, and you can sell hot dogs.
Wow, at 12?
Yeah, and then you bring
That's pretty
cardboard
good.
boxes and you slide down, between the games and everything. So yeah, home of Little League Baseball. I was a fast pitch softball player.
Wow.
So I really loved baseball. So Williamsport was great. I grew up in a hunting and fishing family. So my brother was an avid hunter, my father, even my sister a couple times. But that's pretty much what we did.
So you didn't shy away from the outdoors. You got out there.
Yeah, and horse shows. I have something in
I
common
know. Well,
with you.
I'm not going to let you get away without talking about horses.
I know.
Of course.
You rode a different seat than I did.
That's okay. Horses are horses, right?
Yeah. Horse shows was it. 4-H club and horse shows. That was our life.
Yeah.
Back then.
And when you think about that time in your family and those memories as a child, what kinds of things do you think you picked up that kind of propelled you into the type of person you are today? What are the lessons you learned?
I think the biggest lesson I learned was family support. Trying to go things alone without having at least somebody in your corner or supporting you. It's really difficult to make big changes in your life. I was really happy that I always had my mom and my dad with me, and my brother, who really always supported me through everything I did. So we were really tight. I mean, everybody knew each other, cousins and uncles.
Such a nice thing, isn't it?
It was.
I know our family's the same way.
And every time you went to a wedding or a funeral, you met another cousin.
So many people turn out for that,
It's an Italian thing, I think.
Well, speaking of family stuff, we're going to share some wine together today. I have One
Fabulous.
Hope wine. I don't know if you've heard of One Hope.
I
but
have.
One Hope is actually donating back 15% of the proceeds to United Way from our podcast. So we're going to share some wine, which I have Pinot Noir, which I understand is your favorite.
Yes.
All right,
yes,
so
I
we've
love
got
Pinot.
that for you.
Thank you very much.
I'll pour a little for myself. We also have a platter of cheese here. So I have a lot of different varieties. Manchego, pepper jack, something dipped in wine. I don't even know what kind, but I figured if it's cheese dipped in wine.
Something dipped in wine.
Why not? All right, well, cheers to you being here.
Salute.
All right, so now you grew up, you were outdoorsy, you rode horses. We'll circle back to that. Tell me a little bit about your education and where you went next and people know you as Nurse Paula now, but you have a really extensive background. You have a lot of education and degrees under your belt, and you've done a lot of interesting things. So just take us through that a little bit. What did you think you wanted to do in high school?
That's the thing. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm 57 years old. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So many interesting things keep happening and changing. I like to refer to just as your computer's outdated every 3 years.
Yeah.
My life is like outdated every 3 years.
So you believe in like constant
I
reinvention?
do. I think, I don't know, I adapt to life like a chameleon. Whatever. I see new opportunities. I meet new people that open up my eyes to things like podcasting. I never even thought about being a podcaster. But I got into a situation where I was a guest on a show, and I'm going, that could work for me, and I'll tell you later why.
Well, you're a huge inspiration for us, honestly. I mean, I think that we've been telling stories now for 6 or 7 years in this community, but we realize that we get the opportunity to learn so much more and get more depth than what we can actually put on television.
Right.
And then seeing what you've done with your podcast and how interesting it is and how long you've been able to sustain it really was an inspiration for us. So I have to thank you. It really is true. But you've taken it and you've parlayed it now into doing, digital marketing, social media for Young Medical Spa. You do your podcast.
Right.
But you've got a lot of other degrees. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Oh, geez. Okay. So When I went to college, I got my first degree in health science, my first bachelor's in health science. When I graduated from college, I couldn't get a job. I remember going down to the employment office, and I took all these state tests and all these federal tests just to try to get a job. So I had a degree in health science, and that's like a liberal arts degree in the health field. Like you have a little bit of knowledge in everything, but you're not
no
specialized.
expertise.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody would hire me.
How do you get your foot in the door?
I took civil service tests and federal government tests, and I got my first job came through working for the state of Pennsylvania. I was a drug and alcohol treatment specialist in the prison systems in Franklin, Fulton County.
Okay, well, let's stop there for a second. So first,
Yeah.
you're working with animals, right? You're an animal
Well,
health
that came
science.
later.
That's later. Okay.
That came later.
So before that, you think you're going into health services of
Yeah,
some kind, and you
yeah.
end up that you're in the prison system.
In the prison system.
Did you imagine that?
No, but it was an interesting career.
Now, when you have the opportunity to apply for a job like that, what is your general attitude facing it? I think that a lot of young people out there think that what they see someone doing in their 40s and 50s is exactly where they started, and they don't really realize the journey. So I want people to understand the journey, that you needed a job, and you
Yeah.
were open to the concept. So
Right.
what made you say
my
that job?
motivation was one thing. I had a terminally ill brother. I grew up watching my brother literally die every day, a little bit every day, and he died right after I graduated from college, 3 months after I graduated from college. And the financial burden on my family was just absolutely outstanding, because when your child's terminally ill, you really don't get good health insurance coverage. And my father was a professional firefighter, and my mom was a brilliant woman. She really had to put her whole career aside when my brother was born. And so at night she would sell Princess House crystal, you know, to try to make some extra money. And my father drove a bread truck, he did exterminating, all these little odd jobs for our family to survive. So when I had the opportunity to take my first job, I needed to take a job. I had college loans, you know, I had sports scholarships that paid for so much for softball, but you know, I still had bills, and my family had bills. So I didn't have a choice to be
that necessity
choosy,
is the mother of invention.
like, oh, I don't think I want to do this. And like, hey, it's a job. I
Yeah.
waitressed. I did anything I could to, you know, try to help my family. And we all did that. The whole family did that. You know?
It's amazing when that need is there, what it teaches you and the gratitude you have for the opportunity of any opportunity. So you take that first job,
Yeah.
and
that
what did you
was
learn
fun.
on that one?
I really learned patience, and I learned how to be a really good listener and a really good investigator. Because I was at that time, I was going for my master's degree in criminal psychology, and the criminal mind really fascinated me, especially the schizophrenic minds and the psychotic minds. I was doing my thesis on psychopathic killers like Charles Manson and Ted Bundy. I really was into the DNA of them, not
And that's
so much
really,
their mind.
let me
but
just point
the
out to
medical
people though,
side.
that was really pre
Yeah.
that becoming the science it has become today, right? There wasn't
Correct.
DNA testing.
No.
There wasn't the kind of science behind
No,
it.
I'm that old.
You're
It
that
wasn't.
old. Let's point out that Paula is so old that
We didn't
exist.
have computers in college. That's how old I am. So no, but I was more interested into the organic side of the psychopathic mind, and that's what I was doing my thesis
Which
on.
came first, though? Did the job propel
Job.
you to the
Yeah.
job? So the job opened your mind to the idea that
Yeah,
there were these
there's something
different-
organic going
yeah.
on here
Okay.
with these different people I'm talking to, and you know, I learned how to read eyes, like when people are
You're
lying
freaking me out
to you.
now,
It's
Paula.
really bizarre.
What are
It's
my eyes
really-
telling you
Well, see,
today?
brown eyes are harder.
I have a lot of gold in them,
It's
though.
the blue eyes. But it was a very interesting career because I did learn a lot. I learned how to be tougher and be able to stand up to somebody trying to intimidate me.
And where'd you go with that? Then what did that lead to?
After that, another civil service test I took came through, and that was for the federal government. And I worked for the United States Department of Agriculture, so I did that for a couple of years, and I just kept it because it paid more.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
only reason I took the job. It paid more, and I took the job, and I moved again. You know, so that was for about a year, and then one of the other federal workers that I worked with, he and I decided, don't laugh, we got to make some money on this side. We got to do something. So we together opened up our first tanning salon.
No way.
I'm telling, not kidding you.
Oh my
Sinking
gosh.
Spring, Pennsylvania. We had endless summer tanning salon. It did so well. We put a second location in the Lebanon Valley Mall. So we had 2 tanning salons, and then we kind of split them. He took
The
one,
irony of that
and
is
I took the
really
other.
unbelievable.
I know. And then I ended up opening up, oh, hey, this is going well in the mall. And the mall offered me some more space for really cheap rent. So then I expanded the tanning salon. I put a Merle Norman Cosmetics in. So I opened up a Merle Norman Cosmetics studio. So then I decided, well, I can't do makeup. So I have to go back to Empire Beauty School and get my cosmetology license to be able to touch somebody's face, because you can't do that. You can't put makeup on somebody's face unless you're a cosmetologist.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people do that shouldn't, but
They do.
No.
So I
you
go
do it by the
back
book.
to Empire Beauty School, and I got my cosmetology license, and so then I had the Merle Norman Cosmetics Studio, and then I opened up another studio down in Hershey, Pennsylvania, called Strictly Nails. And that started out just as a nail salon. That's when nails were really getting big. Nail art, nail gems, and all that stuff. And then I ended up adding hair and all this.
All right, so now give me approximately, you're about how old when this is happening?
I'm probably about 28.
All right, so at 28, you've gone through health sciences.
Yeah.
You've got the criminal psychology.
Yeah, it's all
Is
been
happening.
crazy
You're getting a
now. Yeah,
master's.
yeah.
You've gone to cosmetology school.
Yeah.
You've opened 3 businesses at least
Yeah,
at that point.
yeah.
At
And a
28.
deli too, so that one too.
And a
yeah.
deli.
I named it after my brother. My brother's name was Pelly. It's called Pelly's Deli.
That's
It
great.
was all his favorite foods and stuff. Yeah, it was really
Unbelievable.
cool.
And what do you think at this point in your life, what are you thinking? I mean, is there any sort of, are you looking back yet? Are you saying,
No.
okay, this is next? Or are you just taking every opportunity as it comes?
I am, but then I got bored. I was bored mentally.
Okay.
My science brain just,
And
I was
then
bored.
nursing comes into play?
No, so then what happened is, so then I had a lot of animals because I'm an animal lover. And the veterinarian that that I went to said, you know, you really should come work for me. You'd be really good at anesthesia. And I'm like, all right, well, let me try it out. He goes, well, why don't you come and shadow, our staff for a while? And so I did for about a week. I'm going, oh, the medicine, this is it. I need to be in medicine. So I sold all my businesses.
Okay.
And this veterinarian put me through veterinary technician school at Wilson College. He paid for my education.
That's incredible.
So I'm going to vet tech school at Wilson while I'm working for Calvin, and it was great. I mean, we'd be the only 2 in the OR in the morning doing morning surgeries. And he's like, okay, bring out your exams. What did you get wrong? Tell me what you got wrong. And we talked about the exam. This man was my mentor. He opened up my eyes. I just can't, it was like an epiphany. It's like, oh my God, medicine is where I want to be. And so I'm very grateful to that man. To this day, he's still my mentor and somebody that I really look for guidance and look up to. He really turned me all around and helped me
Sounds
find
like he
my
took the
center.
time
Oh, he did.
to really
He's a brilliant
guide
man.
you.
Brilliant
Yeah.
man in medicine.
What do you think he saw in you that made him know that you needed to sort of be in the science medical field in some capacity?
I think it was just the passion that I had for learning and how quickly I picked up. Because anesthesia is difficult on animals. It's really hard, from horses to dogs to cows to sheep to pig to reptiles. I mean, all these different physiologies of all these different animals, they don't all metabolize medications the same way or anesthesia the same way. Their gestational cycles are all different. And I was able to really easily learn it and grasp all of it.
And you like the challenge of it, I'm
Loved it.
imagining. All right, so your mother's just shaking her head.
Yeah.
But you had an example of a father who had a lot of different jobs, you said, and he, needed to make ends meet. And
Yeah, but I had a good job, and when I kept changing like that,
they were sort of like, why not stick with one job?
yeah.
What do you think are some of the lessons you picked up along the way from all of these different opportunities that you seized in your life?
That change didn't scare me. I wasn't afraid of change like most people that I, come into in my life. I mean, it was, I don't know, it was always such an opportunity. It was exciting to learn something new, go somewhere new, move somewhere completely different that I've never lived before, and meet new people. I enjoyed that challenge. Yeah. I just was not afraid of change.
And when does nursing come into play? When do you decide?
Oh, that's a couple things down the road. I can
a couple things down the road. All right, so tell me, you're with the animals.
So as I'm working for this veterinarian in his hospital, he says, you really should be in pharmaceuticals or medical devices. You need to be in that genre. And to do that, you need to move to New Jersey because that's where all the pharmaceutical companies are. I'm like, I don't know anything about that. So he sent me over to Hershey Medical Center to talk to a physician over there who worked in the animal department there. And that man really laid out a plan for me and said, yeah, this, you need to subscribe to these papers and do this, and you can get into these pharmaceutical companies. I'm going, New Jersey, I never thought of New Jersey. It's like, okay, you know, I'll give it a try. So I applied for these jobs.
I want to just pause for a second, because you're saying it very casually, because
Yeah.
for you it's second nature. But you know, we want listeners to understand the journey that someone took, and someone took the time to recommend you follow up with someone at Hershey Medical Center. You did that. You did the follow-up, and then they recommended that you actually do some homework, right? You read some stuff, you signed up for things, you followed through, and I don't want to say it was so easy. You did the work. You did the hard work and tackled something head on. So, you know.
Thank you.
All right.
It was good. It was good advice. I mean, I appreciate good advice. When somebody really wants to take time out of their day and push their work aside to sit down and look you in your eye and say, okay, how can I help you? What do you want to do? What are you feeling? I mean, I really took that in because it was great guidance that I had. So
and you do a lot of that now.
I do.
You give it
I
back.
work with
you
a
give
lot
it back.
of
Yeah, which is nice.
young ladies. Yes, I do.
All right. Well, you make the big move to my neck of the woods.
Yes.
You came to the other side of the Delaware.
I did. I got my first job with Johnson & Johnson with the very first cardiovascular stent. I was lucky enough to be on the team that launched the very first cardiovascular stent, and cardiology became my absolute passion. I had a good 10-year stint with Johnson & Johnson.
Wow.
But
okay, wait, so now you found a job that you stayed
at.
at.
I stayed at 10 years. But we were so small before we got our FDA approval that, you know, the president of the company would just waltz in and sit down. It's like your grandfather. He'd come in, he'd sit down, or your dad, and he'd talk to you at lunch. Hey, how you doing? What do you want to do? And one day he sat down at lunch with me and he goes, hey, Paula, you know, what do you want to do? And I'm like, you know, I'm really enjoying, because I physically made these products with my own hands, you know, in the labs. I was basically a factory worker. And I said, you know, I really would like to work with the physicians. He says, well, you can get further in this company with a nursing degree than a master's degree. He goes, you really should think about nursing. Why don't you go talk to the vice president of sales? I'll set up a meeting. I'm like, great. So I went up, had a meeting, sat down with the vice president of sales, and he says, yes, you need to be a stent technologist and go out and train physicians how to stent, but you should have your nursing license. I'm like, okay, sign me up.
Didn't scare you off. I mean, listen, I like to think that I like a challenge, but I have to tell you, if someone said to me that I had to go get a nursing degree to do whatever was next in my career, I don't think I'd do it. Now, I don't have the same love of science that you do.
I was young, though. I was
true.
really young. It's a lot different when you're in your 20s, you know. And so I'm like, okay, J&J's like, if you get an A or a B in your classes, we'll reimburse you for your education.
Well, that's a
great.
motivator.
So I worked during the day and I went to nursing school at night. And because I already had my bachelor's, all I really needed was my associate's in nursing. And I went there, I literally tested out of all but 2 classes. I only had to take 2 classes to get my associate's degree.
Well, you had so much education at that point, and you'd worked in sciences and health for so long.
But I had to do the clinicals.
Right.
I had to do the 2 years of clinicals, and so some nights I was only sleeping 4 hours between work and school, you know. But I did it, and I got my nursing degree, and I shot right up the corporate ladder. I mean, Marv did not lead me astray. He told me that I would.
If you got that degree.
If I got that degree, I would move up the ladder, and saw my salary, just go right up. And I was out in the field, and I'm working with doctors. I'm training physicians how to implant stents, and because I was a vet tech, I was able to work in the pig labs, and because I could.
Well, and you understood the environment, you understood the language.
It was great.
What were some of the biggest challenges you faced? If you think back in your career, especially at that time, what were some challenges that you faced, and how did you tackle those?
Some of the biggest challenges I faced, and this is honest, was the good old boys club. You know, being a female and rising up through the ranks and getting more and more positions, I started realizing just how careful you have to be around certain people. There are some people out there that are really, they have no scruples whatsoever, and they'll steal your work, they'll take you down, they'll try to manipulate your work, and you have to really be cognizant of how much you share with people, especially your project and your work. I became a lot more guarded, I think.
Yeah, because up to this point, it sounds like you've been very open. You took opportunity, you know, just ran with whatever the next thing was. But now you're in this big corporate environment. Intellectual property matters. You know, what people are coming up with matters, and you're working hard on stuff. So you sort of learned that lesson, I guess, during this time.
And colleagues that you work with, you gotta, I learned how to really guard my work, guard my work. So I became a lot more cautious and a lot more, I would say, just really guarded with what I want to do and what work I'm working on and things like that. Because I always found there was always somebody trying to, take you down or, get that job over you or get this promotion over you.
Always.
That's where I started learning the game. Started learning that corporate game.
Yeah, and that is a big lesson to learn. All right, we're going to take a little pause here because I want to make sure you have a chance to sip your wine.
Thank you, yes.
Do not forget.
Very thirsty.
And I'm going to throw out some questions for you.
Go for it.
That we want to know the answers to. And then we'll close out with modern day. How you met Tom, your wonderful son Thomas, and your business. All right?
Wonderful.
Okay, so what is one thing you cannot live without?
Probably my iPhone. I do all my work on my iPhone. I don't really play much on it. I do all of my social media.
You barely remember life before iPhones,
No,
right?
I do all my social media on my iPhone. I do my podcasting I do a lot of stuff on my iPhone. That is really a mini computer, so I'm literally working on it all the time.
If you were on a desert island, what one cosmetic would you want to have with you?
Lip balm.
Lip balm. That's what I would choose too.
Yeah.
I can't
With
sleep
the
at night
sunscreen
without
in it.
lip balm.
Yeah.
Like some kind of sun. You'd be slapping that all over your face.
Whole body.
Sunscreen. Okay. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Keep your ears open more than your mouth.
Good one. All right. What is one topic that you wish you knew more about?
Politics.
Me too. I'm not that interested in getting involved. I feel like it's such white noise, but I feel like we need to know more about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Young Frankenstein.
Really?
Yeah, I love Mel Brooks movies.
That's great.
Young
Fun.
Frankenstein.
Okay. What is your favorite color?
Red.
Why?
I think, and it might sound morbid, but my brother had to have blood transfusions every 2 weeks, and they always had red pins on, the color of red, and I think red makes me think of my brother.
Wow.
Because they always wore the red blood drop pins, and people were donating blood, and the red crosses, all the red, it just makes me think of my brother. It was his favorite color too.
I love that.
It's his favorite.
What is your happiest moment?
When I saw my son's face for the first time, it was like I knew him my whole life. It was amazing. He didn't even look like a little stranger. When I literally saw his face, that was the most, that was the happiest moment of my whole life.
That's awesome. What is one thing you hope to accomplish before you die?
Oh, that's a good one. I think I would probably, I'd like to set up some sort of program that would help indecisive young girls realize that they have potential and have a place that they can go where there are mentors that can help guide them through some of the situations I went through in my life. I had a lot of really horrible things happen to me. Would I had somebody out there, while I'm being so adventurous and running around, I still had some really horrible, frightening things happen to me. But would I have had some place to go or a mentor to help me in some other these life situations? I think I would have fared out a lot better and not made some of the mistakes I made.
Well, I certainly think that you're doing that to a wide audience now with what you're doing with your podcast and certainly what you guys do with your business. So that kind of leads me into, let's talk about meeting your husband, Tom. Dr. Tom Young?
Yeah, blind date.
Blind date.
I went kicking and screaming, didn't want to go. My
Who
mom
set
made
you
me
up?
go. A friend of mine was a physician up in the Poconos, and it was his wife. She said, "Oh, I know this guy I want to fix you up with." And I said, "What does he do?" And she says, "He's a doctor." I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't date doctors. I work with them all day. I don't date them." She goes, No, I grew up with him. I was friends with his little sister, and he's a really nice guy." And I figured, okay, I'll try it. So.
And you were single. You had never been married before?
I was married before,
Okay.
yes. I was married to such a loving guy, I had to share it with like 18 other women. Just far too much love for just one woman. I had to set him free.
What, you
to
know
set
what?
him free.
That was nice of you.
To love
really.
more. Yes.
Give him
And
the freedom that he really
yes,
deserved.
Yes. He's free now. But no, so I went on this blind date, and I really went very skeptical because I really wasn't meeting anybody. You don't meet anybody at work usually. and I didn't meet anybody at college. So.
And there's no online dating, right? This is not like a thing yet?
I tried that, yeah.
Okay, it was a
I tried
thing.
that. It was a disaster. Yeah, it didn't work for
didn't
me.
work for
Worked
you.
for a lot of people I know.
But
just
blind
was
date, you
not-
must have really trusted this friend. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I did.
So you go, what's your first impression?
I knew within an hour that I was going to spend the rest of my life with him.
I love that.
I knew it in an hour. Yeah, I didn't
That's
want to
incredible.
go. But in fact, I wouldn't let him come to my house. I didn't even want him to know where I lived. So.
And now, so Tom has 2 daughters,
Yes,
correct, from his
yes,
previous marriage.
yes.
So you gain some family
Yeah,
with this.
yeah.
And you don't have kids at this point.
No.
Okay.
No. It was what was wonderful is that my stepdaughters really taught me a lot about living with children and being a mother, being a parent, parenting, all the things that go on, So I was lucky that my husband let me share in his daughters' lives, because it really was a great experience for me. And they turned out being like second mothers to my son.
That's awesome.
I mean, they're
such a nice thing. And it's
oh,
hard to
yeah.
be a step parent. It's hard
It
to be
is.
a step parent.
It is.
I have wonderful step parents, and I think people don't give them enough credit. It's hard to
Well,
do.
because you don't want to take the place of their mother. They
Sure.
have a mother. That's
Sure.
you don't want to do that.
All right, so you marry Tom.
Right.
He's a physician. He's got 2 kids. When do you decide that? And they're older. They're teenagers, right? At this point.
No,
Or
they
how old
were like
they?
9 and 11. I
Okay.
think, at
And when
that
do you
time.
decide that you want a child?
Well, I was getting up there in age, so we figured out if we wanted to have a child, we needed to get started on it. It was a long road. It was 4.5 years of IVF, and it took a long time and a lot of science to get my son.
It's something that a lot of people go through and not a lot of people talk about. So
Right.
is there anything as a messaging that you want to kind of put out there for people? Because you're pretty open about what you went
Yeah.
through, and of course, you have this amazing son now. So
Thomas is our miracle baby. He really is. I can't tell you. I think I had about 36 embryos put in my body to just have this one little miracle.
Wow.
And he knows how special he is. I mean, he's like the only kid in his class that has his first baby picture in a petri dish. He knows how special he is. And I would just say, I always felt that if it was meant to be, it was going to be for one reason or another. I always thought that God had a plan. And I had several miscarriages. And they never devastated me, and I thought something was wrong with me for not being devastated.
Like you thought you should have felt a different
Yeah,
way.
I was like, why am I not devastated? But then my science brain said, Paula, you had a terminally ill brother. You watched what your parents went through all his life, the suffering, the pain, the sadness. This is God's way of just saying something was not right with this fetus. And something wasn't
And when it
forming
was right,
and when it's right,
it worked.
It'll be your turn. When it's my turn, it'll be my turn. So I just kind of kept a level head. It's kind of hard because you're crashing up and down with these hormones that you have to take.
It's an unbelievable
It
journey.
is, the up and down. So I tried to separate my brain. I tried to keep the nurse brain and the woman brain.
Yeah.
Because if I let the woman brain take over, then all those hormones and things would have just made me crazy. But the nurse brain's like, okay, this is why you're feeling this. You're crashing down off the progesterone now, and this is what's going to happen to your moods. And it helped keep me focused and made me more determined to I just let everything in God's hands.
Yeah, it is an amazing story, and you do have a great son. And
Thanks.
I think that seems to me that would have been kind of a real trial for you guys to go through, and then you subsequently built a business together. And that's a tough one too. It's a tough road to build a business. So tell us a little bit about Young Medical Spa and how you built this business together and what you guys do over there.
Well, we saw the turn that medicine was starting to take. It was really, really hard to have my husband's an internist, and he's double board certified in geriatrics and internal medicine. And 15 years ago, we could see it was really hard to get enough insurance reimbursements to pay your staff, to sit there and call in prior authorizations and insurance. And it was just very difficult because we're responsible for these people and they're feeding their children, and it was just very difficult to make ends meet as a single provider. So because I had my degree in cosmetology and I was a nurse, I was very interested in aesthetic medicine. And so my husband and I decided to go this route together, and we started out just very simple. He learned everything he could about Botox, and he was really one of the very first smart lipo doctors after the FDA approval of the device. So he has performed well over 7,000 procedures to date. He's one of the top smart lipo docs in the country now. And we're diligent at it, and we just work together side by side, and we built this practice. Then after a couple of years, we just strictly focused on solely cosmetic medicine. Everything's non-invasive or minimally invasive, nothing with general anesthesia.
Right, so if somebody needs a plastic surgeon, you make a referral.
Oh, we refer out,
and,
yes. Yeah, we refer out all the time.
What's interesting is I have always known you in this capacity, and you're very tenacious, and you're always researching, and you're always finding the next thing, and now I understand why. Now learning a little bit more about your history, I can see why this is such a good fit, because you really are kind of on the cutting edge of what is going on and what's coming up next. Right. And that kind of leads me to the podcast. Tell me a little bit about It's a Young Thing.
The reason why I started that podcast is over the years, and because this is pretty much a cash-based business, there's a lot of people entering the market. And I saw a lot of patients coming in asking the same questions over and over again who got ripped off or had really bad care. And I found myself saying the same things over and over and over again to patients. I'm like, I got to get this information out to help these people make the right decision. I don't care if they come to us or not, but just to be informed. I just kind of felt it was a nurse's duty to do this. Inform people. This is the difference between Botox and fillers. Just something
and you've
as
really
simple as that.
expanded. I mean, you started with a lot about the procedures, but you've moved on, I think, to really some inspirational and motivational.
Well, I found,
podcasts.
Because being your best self isn't always just looking good.
Right.
It's feeling good.
Right.
Your mind, your body, it's being motivated, it's having a mentor. And I found all these other people that I could talk to that could share their words of wisdom to help someone become their best self. So literally at episode 50, I changed it up from strictly, aesthetic medicine to wellness and, spirituality, anything that can really help someone be their best self. So what's really nice about it, it's free. I don't pull any punches. I tell people, this is what it is. This is who it's for. This is who it's not for. This is how you can get ripped off. And that way people can make the most informed decision for themselves, whether they want to have something done.
Well, you and I have talked many times. We can share with people we're very closely aligned in our mission and what we hope to be putting out there. So we're so grateful for you to coming today.
Thank you for
telling
having
us.
me.
I think we could probably have you on for 3 or 4 hours, so you'll have to come back. Sounds like there's a lot of stories in
between. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stories over the years. People are like, well, you've done so much. I'm like, but I'm 57 years old. I had a lot of time to do so much. So
yeah, it's amazing, Paula, really. And congratulations. We should tell people you actually won a huge award for your podcast, the Rising Star Award from My Face, My Body Awards out in LA, correct?
That was fun, yes.
Got some cool red carpet, lots of celebs.
Yeah, that was fun.
Very exciting. So that's like a nationwide award that you've brought right here from the Lehigh Valley. So we're very proud of you and so grateful to be your friend and to have worked alongside with you these last few years. So thanks for being here. We thank everybody for listening and Paula for sharing her story. I'm Ashley Russo, and we hope that you'll enjoy more stories like this by subscribing to our podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're all at The Peak TV, and you can get regular updates. We run lots of contests. If you want to win some free stuff, definitely follow along. This is Unscripted with Ashley Russo. Thanks for listening.